Hey everyone, Matt aka Stormageddon here, putting on his audio producer hat. I just wanted to give you a heads up that I'm aware that the audio is a little choppy here. We had to record this conversation from my computer locally, so if there were issues internet-wise, words were dropped or half words were dropped, I cut and edited the best I could, and for the most part, I don't think there's ever a moment where a word or something drops and you lose the whole context of the sentence. But there are those moments, so bear with us. Rex had no way to record locally, and so this was the only way we could capture the audio, because this was originally meant to be done in person, but obviously we are living in times where that is not possible. So thanks again for your patience with this. I hope you really enjoy this episode. It's definitely one of my favorite missions from Mass Effect 2. So enough of my yapping, and enjoy.
You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about helping your friends. I'm MJ.
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon.
And for this mission, we're excited to introduce our guest, Rex. No, not that one.
Yes, a different Rex. This is with an R and not a WR.
Yes.
Rex, thank you so much.
Distant cousins.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I could see you hanging out with a Krogan. It seems like your type a little bit, depending.
They actually that fits the description of a lot of my friends. I'm the Morden in the group. Yes.
That's actually very funny to me. Well, Rex, it's really exciting to have you on. Before we get into your connections to Mass Effect, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about what you do?
So I'm a burlesque performer and producer in New York City. We've worked together.
We have.
And burlesque, huge nerd population, huge gamer crossover, comic crossover. So Mass Effect, it kind of lends itself to that, of deep dives into pop culture.
For sure. And you have a specific company that you produce with right now, right? That you started with Nip Fury.
Yeah. Well, we just started up in December, Fire and Fury Burlesque. We do one show a month, and with everything on lockdown right now in New York at the time of this recording, we're now moving on to a web series.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
We will keep performing so long as people keep paying. We just might have to do it from our own homes.
I mean, yes, stay safe, stay home. As of when we're recording, continue to wash your damn hands and stay home.
I can't stay home. I'm considered essential.
Yeah, so am I. So it's like, who's not essential at this point?
You provide a very helpful service.
That's true. Yeah, different level.
I play with dogs.
That's essential.
And that's if I'm lucky. That's if we have any. I did get to play with some very good dogs.
Oh. They're all good dogs.
Derailing the conversation.
Yes, sorry.
It's all good. Well, we obviously have you here because we're here to talk about Mass Effect, as we do with every guest. What's your history with Mass Effect, and kind of what does it mean to you?
All right. So I got into Mass Effect more coming from an RPG standpoint, and to be honest, the first game was a much better RPG than it was a shooter.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 2 is my favorite in the series. I feel like a lot of people would say that because they fixed a lot of the game problems, the controls. It played a lot better than the first one. But yeah, I got into it because I'm a BioWare nerd. Knights of the Old Republic 2, still one of my favorite games. Obviously, an unfinished mess that should have never been shipped in the condition that it was, but good modding community because it's on the PC made it playable. And so yeah, after that, it was like, okay, cool. So it's like Mass Effect is like kind of the best parts of Star Wars and the best parts of Star Trek. It's like we have the Force, we'll just explain it through black hole.
I mean, yes, exactly, pretty much.
So got into the first game. I think I played it for like a week. I never made it past really the first mission and just kind of got bored with it, and then picked it up like 2 months later and didn't set it down until I beat it. Like, there's like that kind of hump you have to.
Yep. Everybody has this problem.
Yes. So like I said, they fixed all of that in this one. Thank God for that.
Yeah, I would say that
But,
the second one plays the best out of. It's tough. We haven't gotten to 3 yet for the show, but like at this point, 2 is definitely better than 1 as far as gameplay goes, and like even story wise too.
And you still haven't experienced Andromeda, so you don't even know.
Well, I mean, just losing the Mako was a huge thing. That was a huge fix right there.
Yes, agreed.
And I know that there are some people like masochists, I don't know, that actually like the Mako, but like that's pretty much, yeah. I mean, so taking that out and bringing in things like ammo, with the thermal clips or whatever, made it more of a shooter, made other classes are viable. Like I went Vanguard in this one, as opposed to Soldier in the first one, because like, Soldier, you can kind of cheese your way through everything in the first.
Yep.
So yeah, there was a lot of balancing issues in this one that were fixed, and yeah, Mass Effect it's not that I didn't like the first one, but Mass Effect 2 is really, the pinnacle of the genre.
And I'm just curious before we get on to the what does it mean to you part of it. Have you played everything through 3 and Andromeda as well?
No, I jumped off on Andromeda.
Okay.
And from what I hear, that was the right move.
No, it wasn't. It was a terrible move. You should have stayed on with Andromeda and played it 5 times like I.
Oh, God.
Andromeda was really fucking good, guys, okay?
Uh-huh.
I just, after three kind of left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Which it's not that it was a bad game; it was actually a really good game until but 3, as good as it was definitely a step down from 2, and I felt like it was the good end of the series. I'm like, okay, I can jump off here. It's like when a comic book run finishes like a story arc with a certain writer, and it's like, all right, cool, I can just walk away from this. Like it's still going to go on, but it can go on with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, totally.
I just have a lot of Andromeda feeling.
We know. No one listening right now doesn't know that.
I have a lot of feelings about too when you get into like what does it mean. It's as much as I like Knights of the Old Republic or some other games where it's like, oh, you can be the good guy, you can be the bad guy. They're definitely written for you to be the good guy.
Yeah.
And that you have to jump through some logical hoops to be the bad guy. If good and bad are even a thing in the game. Like one of my favorite games of all time, Planescape Torment. Like good and evil, like nothing matters. It's kind of a nihilistic philosophical thing that they work into the gameplay. But like with Mass Effect, specifically in 2, I really love how, even if you're the quote unquote bad guy, you're still doing the right thing. You're just, it's the dickhead cop from the 70s of like, he gets results.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I really do appreciate in a way that like where Knights of the Old Republic, or Jade Empire, you can go to any of the, BioWare. It's supposed to be like choose your own path, but one of them is they kind of really have to write some ham-fisted stuff to get it to work in the narrative. Mass Effect 2 and 2 in particular, because you could be renegade in any of them, but 2 really makes sense of like you've been brought back from the dead by a terrorist group, definitely shady ties everywhere, and even especially in Lair, the Shadow Broker coming up, like that'll get thrown in your face. I just really do appreciate the amount of writing that it had to take to get that to fit into the narrative as smoothly as it when you pick whichever path.
Right.
It all makes total sense, which from a writing standpoint is really impressive.
So, in Mass Effect, how did your ideal playthrough play out with the Rachni Queen? Did you let her live, or did you put an end to the Rachni reign?
Yeah, no, I went straight Paragon pretty much everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because that's me in real life. I am generally a nice person, I would think, and genocide's kind of frowned upon.
Only a little bit, and not really entirely in the world of Mass Effect.
Yes, it's I don't. The way that I do appreciate. again, it's not a false moral equivalency. Like that is a genuine thing where it's like basically, is a sentient species? Are you dooming billions of people to die? But like, yeah, I saved the Arachnite Queen, and that actually comes up nicely in the second one.
Oh, good. For Rex, I can't imagine that Rex died with you.
No, Caden was sacrificial lamb, shall we say?
Okay, so Caden died on Vermeer. Ashley lived.
Yes.
Who was your ideal love interest?
I went with Ashley.
Interesting.
Okay.
Which I understand I thought was pretty standard, but I guess.
Yeah. A lot of people can't get past space racist.
Yeah, no, and that's a thing. I think with me, with my time in paramilitary organizations, shall we say, I'm used to the casual racism and kind of numb to it in a way of just like, all right, I'm going to have to deal with that if I want to get to know people on anything more than a surface level, and then maybe I can change them later.
All right.
So, yeah.
That's pretty much where I ended up with Ashley, but from a platonic way.
Right. At the time, the other option would have been Liara, and there was a whole like naivety there that I didn't care for. I love what they did with her in what we're about to talk about. That wasn't part of her character really yet.
Yeah. She's like a whole new person.
Right. And I think it's wonderful because, that's good writing. Things should change. That one of the problems, with long-running narrative mythologies or comic books of, however many decades, it's like, all right, this is great, but we hit the reset button every time.
Next up, the council. Did you save them or sacrifice them? Okay.
Yeah, and the great thing about Mass Effect is if you do all the right things, you can do Firefly, big damn heroes. Yeah.
And who did you place on the council as the human ambassador?
Okay, so this one to me was really easy because I don't know anyone that picked Adina. The guy is an asshole. He just stymies you at every opportunity. The other guy is Keith.
Right?
I mean, who? It's like I see the split with Caden and Ashley or Ashley and Liara, but like I just do not know anyone in their right mind that would put Adina. So
Captain
yeah, Anderson.
Dad is the one.
Because I mean, come on, he was.
Yeah, you need Goliath on the council. It's required.
Right. I mean, come on. So yeah, Anderson, obviously.
Can someone please tell Keith David about our podcast and how much we love him?
Seriously, got really excited. This is like a tangent, but in the newest Mortal Kombat, Spawn is a playable character, and Keith David reprises his role as the voice of Spawn, like in the HBO cartoon series, and it just made me happy on a level. Even though it's a game I will never play, it just made me so happy.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. It's I just really appreciate all the things that they've done with that. They got I think they got like Carl Weathers on there for Jack's voice, and they actually got the Kerry. I can never say his last name, but played Shang Tsung like 25 years ago in the Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh yeah, he plays him, and they did facial capture for it too.
They straight up put his face in the game. So those guys, I appreciate that on a level. So getting Keith David for Spawn, I didn't know that, but yeah, that's par for the course for those guys, which happens when you have $1 million game.
Yeah, it's true.
I also would like to get Keith David a Captain Dadderson shirt.
I mean, if we can figure out his P.O. box or where we can send him gifts, we should send him one. Seriously, let's just do it. I will pay for that.
All right. That being said, let's get into this summary.
Okie dokie.
I gotta crack my neck and my knuckles and everything.
Get ready. I believe in you.
We return to Ilium to turn over some important information to our old friend Liara. It's time to go after the Shadow Broker and save her friend Farron. When we visit her apartment, we find out she was attacked. We help Tela Visir, a specter investigating the attack on Liara. After some poking around, we find out where Liara went and go after. Once we arrive at the building, a bomb takes out several floors. We split up to find Liara, but instead find mercenaries trying to prevent us from finding Liara's contact. Once we make it through, Liara appears from the shadows to reveal it was after her all along. After some running, some more fighting, and a high-speed skycar chase, we track Vizier down to a swanky hotel for a final battle. From there, we find out where the Shadow Broker's base is and head out. Now we must find our way across the outside of the ship, hack a door, and find Farron. When we do, we discover we must shut down the whole network to free him. We fight our way through to the Shadow, come face to face with him. Something few people can claim. Once we beat him, Liara takes control of his network and becomes the new Shadow Broker.
So much in this mission. I'd forgotten how much.
Oh my god. It was so long.
Yeah, no, but that's I mean, what was this, $15? Like, you should get that.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, you definitely got your money's worth from DLC like this and other DLCs we're going to be discussing in the coming weeks. But before we go deep into the mission itself, Rex, why is this mission important? Why was this the mission you wanted to talk about?
All right, yeah. So, branching off of what I just said, like, this is DLC that I'm an old school gamer. You know, I was born in 1982. Do the math on that. So, like, I kind of grew up with video games, and you know, it's a relatively recent phenomenon within, I'd say, the last 10 years, where you get 70% of a game on release for the full price, and then there's things, and we see this, once EA bought out Bio, you had a day one DLC locked behind a paywall that was on the disc in Mass Effect 3. So these are huge problems that games have. But like Lair of the Shadow Broker was like, and also the sister game Dragon Age Origins, their DLC on that with Awakening, like that's DLC done right. That's like we're gonna charge you $10-15 and give you meat. It's not reused assets. Not it was a great story. Also, I mean, it branches perfectly between 2 and 3. You don't have to do it then, but it works. So it's kind of, I don't know. I love Lair of the Shadow Broker. It's probably my favorite mission in all of Mass Effect 2.
It's a really good one. Like you said, it's a meaty story. It's like its own game in itself.
And more so than like the Kasumi mission, like that's obviously like that's a cool little distraction, but Lair of the Shadow Broker has massive implications. And from a narrative standpoint, it's great because even though I didn't choose the Liara romance option, I just it was a platonic, like, hey, catching up with a friend who's in a bad place that, get there. But like, there's a lot of meat to that story of like, if you have a relationship with Liara in the first game and then chose to pursue someone else, she knows about that. She's the Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of good story material there, like to be tread between ex-lovers or however, or maybe ones that you didn't choose to end it, died. So it's a great setup with a lot of meat on it, so
I'm really happy that it gave me the opportunity to be like, and we are not dating anymore. Okay, thank you, goodbye. I was really afraid it was going to make me confront the fact that, like, we were a, quote, thing in Mass Effect 1 because Mass Effect 1 tricked me.
Yeah, I had that same thing with Ashley in 3, and it was like, no, I've been loyal.
Yeah, it's interesting the way the relationship stuff shakes out, especially for my character who didn't have a relationship in the first game, and we'll get to it, but like the tail end stuff with Liara is a little weird for my character, and I'm not quite sure why, but we'll talk about that. But first, as we always do, we should chat about our check-ins, which I don't know about you, MJ, but for me, literally everyone was just like a one-liner about, congrats, we blew that shit up. Yeah. You did great. Like, that was all it was.
High fives all around. Patting each other on the backs, some quirky one-liners. I did have extensive conversation with Legion.
Yeah, same.
And I have comments about Zaid, but let's run down the list real quick.
Sure.
It was really gratifying for me to be like back in the Normandy and for having all my people around me again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, even though it was a brief moment where the Normandy was empty and everyone was gone except for my squad, having the Cerberus crew back was really comforting because it's like, oh, okay, these are people that I have like not necessarily gotten to know, but gotten used to having around. And now they're back and everything is right with the world. And they were all like celebrating and happy because we came for them. We didn't lose any of them. Everything worked out for them.
So you had a very good suicide mission.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I lost one.
Yeah. As of when we're recording, that episode has yet to air, but yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not trying to spoil.
It's all good. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was. I noticed that too, MJ. That like all of the regular crew, the non-squad crew, are like congratulating
the
you.
Non-essential person.
I was trying not to say that.
I'm sorry.
They all, but they're all like congratulating you or saying thank you. And you even get to have some like nice heartfelt moments. You know, they're not they're not sectional conversations, but they're just like 2 or 3 lines from like the chef and from Dr. Chakwas are both very grateful. Especially the
Dr.
thank you.
Chakwas.
Yeah, her thanking you and Jeff. And it's funny, I still remember the first time playing this game, there was this brief moment of like, Jeff, who the fuck's Jeff?
Who's Jeff?
Because he's never called by his first name except by her. So it always falls out of my head. And I'm like, oh yeah, right, Joker. That's his actual name. Right.
And Edie. Edie calls him Jeff.
Yes. Especially after that mission.
Speaking of Joker, Joker has this moment where he goes, I'm glad it is over. Tell me it's over? Oh, it's never over, is it?
Yeah. Pretty much realizing what he's signed up for and that it's never going to end as long as he's riding around with Shepard.
Yeah. Also, I picked up that he is finally getting used to getting help from Edie.
Yep.
He says something about how Edie picks up all the slack. And as Shepard, you could be like, I want your eyes on everything. You know that, right? And don't use this as an excuse to be lazy.
Yep. I pretty much chose that option because I knew it would make Joker squirm a little. And it was pretty funny.
Kelly is very grateful. And I was very pleased to know that I could ask her how she was feeling. She was definitely exhausted. But then she was back to her old chipper self. And I'm just like, honey, no.
It's okay to be not okay.
Well, they kind of address that in the third one, depending on how you go, without getting ahead, obviously. But
yeah, that's true.
I actually really like Kelly. Like she she was probably my favorite, non-squad member.
Yeah, she's so sweet.
I'm a sucker for a pixie cut too.
Okay, after Kelly. Kelly deserves better than Cerberus. I just want to throw that out there.
Yes.
After Kelly, I went to Jacob, who approved of my act.
Yep.
He didn't expect, and he wants us to stay ready. Morden was very impressed. He knows that the elusive man will be displeased. Samara believes we did the right thing. Thane also supported our choice. Kasumi said that someone saw Garrus heading up to my quarters with champagne. I have the least sneaky boyfriend in all of the Milky Way.
I mean, considering how awkward Garrus gets, it is not surprising to me at all.
Couldn't wait until nobody was in the... Okay, fine.
What's funny is, like, with Kasumi just says that she's happy that Jack is finding comfort in somebody and is getting close to someone because she deserves it, essentially along those lines. Aww. Which is actually really sweet, yeah.
Kasumi's such a good egg.
Yeah.
Miranda also on our side, standing against the elusive man. Let's see. Gardner calls us a hero. Have a good quote from Garrus. Remind me to never get on your bad side.
Yeah. Which is like, yeah, I mean, I figured you would have known that by now, but I'm glad this cemented that, buddy. I'm glad you know.
Space Mom is still shaken, and she calls us true friends.
So sweet.
She's a sweet, sweet lady. Legion says that we are more like Geth than they thought because we had the future offered to us and we had advancement available for us to take, but we said, no, we will do this on our own terms and destroyed the technology. Let's see. We also get to learn more of the Geth story of rebellion. Did you get this conversation?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
He is the only one
I got this one.
He's the only one after all the check-ins after the suicide mission that you get extended conversation with, because his story is still developing a tiny bit. I think this is the last long conversation we get, but yeah, this is one that I think you can only get after the suicide mission is over.
So to respond to you, Rex, my husband John was watching me play, and he was surprised because I was getting further in a conversation with Legion than he'd ever been, and he was learning so much more new information about the Geth.
Yeah, I'm definitely in his boat.
It's because I feel like most people do all the missions before they do that suicide run.
Yeah.
So you can't this conversation with Legion any further because you've done all the missions. And it's going out on missions that advances your conversation.
Right. And that makes sense because if you basically almost have to choose between, because if you start putting off the suicide mission, you lose crew members.
Right.
Yep.
So,
what else did Legion say? Legion talks about how organics fear that which is different. He also talks about I wish I had John's brain on this one because I feel like he would have some genocide relevant comments to make about their story, which is at first they were ignored and then they were reprogrammed and then they were attacked. And I feel like that falls into some case study somewhere.
Probably. I mean,
stand by for John's future podcast called Genocast, where you can learn all about genocide.
Yeah, right. I what I love about Legion here is the kind of kind innocence that he addresses you with, even knowing what Shepard's done, what other humans have done, what the Quarians have done. Legion still treats you like an equal, and he has no reason to, right? Like if Legion were to get angry or to even rebel against you, that I wouldn't fault Legion for that, but he doesn't, which is really interesting.
Well, that's not the Geth way.
Right.
It is not the way. So Legion tells us that the Geth hold Rannoch hostage. Well, they say we hold their world of origin, though we are only caretakers. They also talk about how the homeworld is a symbol of regret, loss, and anger, which was basically Legion saying home is where the heart.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You're really not.
Like, you took 10 minutes to get to home is where the heart is, Legion. Come on. You have access to all of our databases. You should have had that idiom somewhere.
Right.
So the reason why the Geth take care of Rannoch is they're cleaning up from the war, and they compare it with memorial sites.
Mm-hmm.
And when I suggested to the Legion, like, why not try and make, they said that Geth are not comfortable with peace, but have no other solution.
Yeah, it really shows how far we've come since Mass Effect 1 and how much more we've learned about the Geth since then. Like, it's so easy to consider them mooks, that deserve to die, like Nazis. Everyone should kill Nazis. I'll go on record with that. But like they're considered what? Don't at me. I don't know.
How sad is it that that's a controversial position?
But like what I'm talking about is like they're considered henchmen or mooks in the first game, like in like the Foot Soldiers and in Ninja Turtles or something. Like they're just considered mindless mooks that you kill for most of the first game, if not all of it. And then we interact with Legion, and you're like, oh, I'm awful. Sort of. This is complicated now, It's some of my favorite stuff in the game, and I wish you got Legion a little earlier, and it's why I'm glad we're doing the missions in this order of operations, because I like having him around. And if you do it the other way around, you don't really get to spend much time with him. And this is the only game he's playable in. I guess spoilers for the next game, and so, well, playable, finger quotes, he's in your party. And so I appreciate that. I really like that you get to know this character, and it completely changes your perspective on something you thought you completely knew from the first game.
The Geth are the only species that matter. It sucks. The Geth are great. I want to protect them forever.
Forever, yes.
Hopping forward a little bit, Tally, they said it couldn't be done. Again, that's said about a lot of things. Flirting with me.
I mean, I think Tully is mostly just awkward, so she's kind of almost flirting with everyone.
Yeah,
Let
what's
me
that
have
like?
Oh, is that a dig at Matt?
I mean,
Oh no, that was a dig at me, but
Oh,
I
sounded
think
like
that's
a dig at
I,
Matt.
I think that's a dig at all of us. But
yeah, I mean, that's also true.
Um,
I think
Gabby
that's
and Ken.
I think that's just why Tally is such a good character. That's so well regarded, is because everyone sees like themselves.
Yeah.
You know.
She is my precious baby. Gabby and Ken are also thankful. Absolutely nothing to say to me, and I was kind of salty about it. Did she say anything to you?
I don't think so.
Maybe Jack just really did not care
No.
about the aftermath of that fight.
So no, you're right. Jack doesn't, because Jack, to me, because we are, and this is where I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit about the mechanics of the game a little bit and pitch a fit. When you go to talk to Jack as someone who's pursued a relationship with her, she repeats the things she says before the suicide mission too. The I don't know what I'm going to do with you, like the loop that happens before you. I don't want to use consummate the relationship. I hate how that sounds, but like when the storyline progresses and she does come to your quarters, the conversation here doesn't change, and so she doesn't say anything about the suicide mission. And even if you're close to her, she doesn't say anything about your relationship. She just acts as if none of that happened, which is a programming thing. It's definitely not a narrative thing.
Yeah.
And that bums me the hell out.
Yeah, because after I have that conversation earlier with Garrus, I tried talking to him again, and he went back to the loop like we hadn't already.
Yeah.
Like, had just like, but wait, we know we've already done this, sweetie.
Yeah.
Do you not remember? Did you have too much champagne?
Yeah. No, it's
I am concerned.
It's a bummer. That pulls me out of it a little bit. But I mean, I get why it happens. Like, they can only, there's a level of capacity and ability to so much before they can't predict everything. But it's still a little bit of a bummer, but it's more stark with Jack, because if you go to talk to her, you don't even get the congratulation thing to then drop off and move away. It just goes back into that repeated conversation, which sucks more.
Our precious lizard son was very happy with the battle. We are now the most dangerous thing in the galaxy.
And I mean, I kind of knew that, but it's nice to hear my lizard son reinforce it.
He's so happy. And then I forgot that Zaid died for me. So I tried to go visit him, and then I was like, oh shit, he's not here. Oh fuck, he died. All of his shit is still here. Does that mean I can have his model ship?
Yeah, I went.
I have it?
I went into his room, and he pretty much says what a lot of the others said, congratulating us, but in his own little smarmy, sarcastic way. And I'm saying it like that because I honestly don't remember what he said, because as a character, he's not very well developed, which is a bummer because...
No, they made it really obvious that he's the DLC guy.
And it's a bummer because the actor is so good.
So good.
Like, I love hearing him talk. Like his mannerisms, like I can imagine. It's such a waste of a character that doesn't really get much to do. And like, this is further proof of that when you go to talk to him. Like the way he says "goddamn," like he drops letters, like "goddamn," like I hear it in my head all the time. But yeah, so whatever he said, it wasn't that important. So I guess you're not missing much. Are you still conflicted about his death, MJ?
Yes and no. Like, I didn't really like him as a person, but he died a hero, so I guess I respect him for that. But also, some things that happened in Citadel DLC, and like, you don't know, and I can't like tell you why I'm sad about having lost him from a meta perspective. Like, there's some very good scenes with him, and he has some very good banter.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't purchased the third game yet on PC. I will as we're getting closer to it, which we're rapidly approaching. But I'm looking forward to playing that DLC that I never played. I think the only DLC I played was the whatchamacallit DLC, the Ilium DLC.
You mean Omega?
Omega, rather. Yeah, sorry. I couldn't remember. Yeah, Taking Back Omega. Like, that DLC I remember playing. I don't remember any of the other DLC. So, we'll see. I might have played... Because I think there were 3, right, in the third game?
Well, the big one was Leviathan, which should not have been a DLC.
Leviathan was good.
Oh, Leviathan, I'm pretty sure I
Leviathan,
played.
Omega, and Citadel.
Yeah, so Leviathan I played, and Omega I played. It's just the Citadel DLC I never played, so...
Cool.
Is that it for our check-ins?
Yes.
Okay.
I am. Just give me a second because I have to save something so I can send it to you in chat.
Okay. I will chat for a second then, just to say, I know typically with the check-ins, me and MJ do our individual sides of it, but because we both chose the same option in the suicide mission to destroy the collector base, all those one-liners are the same. So I followed her lead here in this segment because there's no in-depth conversation except the Legion thing. And even again, we're both Paragons, so we kind of follow the same path.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have anything to add here because I'm also a Paragon that destroyed it.
Yeah. There's literally nothing that we can hash out and compare. Okay, so the thing I want to talk about next is I never knew that after the suicide mission, you could invite your love interest up to your cabin whenever you...
No, and with me, it was actually...
Aw, that's sweet.
No love interest, so they kind of default.
Weird, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never knew that. I guess because I always finished all the missions. I had no reason to go back.
Yeah.
So it was very weird. Garrus sits on a couch very awkwardly, and you can sit in his lap. And then there's an option to rest in bed where you can snuggle, and it's very cute. I sent you guys a screenshot of that so you can see how adorable it is.
It is very adorable.
That's what it looks like when I snuggle my body pillow.
I'm sure it does. Except the height discrepancy is bigger, right? Since you're so tiny.
Actually, FemShep and I are the same height, so fuck. FemShep is also 5'3".
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Mel Shep's like what? Like he's over 6 feet.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, the guy's an Adonis.
Yeah, that's true. The guy who's based on, who has aged so well, and I am unsurprised, and has like this big head of gray hair and like a gray beard. Like he looks like a different person.
Yeah, of course.
But he still looks good.
But of course, he's still fucking beautiful. Like,
just to chime in.
I played as default Shep because it's like, you know, there's nowhere to go from there. Like all the character creations, it's like you look like I'm sorry, I'm gonna shout out Elder Scrolls 4, where like they almost look like people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right.
And it's kind of off-putting. The worst time, like one person described another person to me as like, oh yeah, he looks like an Oblivion character. I'm like, oh shit, that's terrible. Why would you say that? So yeah, I went default Mel Shep.
That's fair.
It's like, here, play as this model.
In the past, when I've played as Mel Shep, I've done that, but because the whole point of this playthrough was to be me, I did the best I could, and I think it's fine. It's fine.
So Male Shep is definitely 6'2", and I know that I read somewhere that Fem Shep was 5'3", but I cannot find that. And everywhere else is just speculating. And the speculations are like 5'8", 5'9", and I'm like, how can you know definitively that John Shepard is 6'2", but not know definitively like how tall Jane Shepard is? Why are you like this, internet?
I mean, also remember, until the third game, there was no default FemShep, like no high-res default FemShep. They didn't add that till the third game, which, as someone who played FemShep, was really convenient that their default, like high-res FemShep, looked almost exactly like mine, so I just upgraded. But, like, you know, they didn't capture a model's face for FemShep until the third game, whereas, John Shepard had it the whole time. So it doesn't surprise me that the internet doesn't know that, since, FemShep wasn't treated equally anyway from the start, which is a bummer when you say it out loud.
Yeah. Well, the third game was the one where they finally introduced the reversible cover.
Yep. With both of them on
the box. Yeah.
I was going to say something else. Also, Shepard's birthday is coming up. We should do something for it. It's April.
Okay. Yes, we'll do something.
At the time of this recording, you're not legally allowed to do anything.
Well, we can do stuff through the internet.
I wasn't suggesting we'd have a speakeasy, Rex. I was suggesting we'd post something on Facebook.
There should be an Omega speakeasy. Or what was Ari's club?
Afterlife.
Afterlife.
That's
Speak it into the universe, Rex.
A great place.
Yeah, make it happen. I support you.
Okay, this is getting away from us a little bit.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah.
No, it's okay.
Also a bit outside of my company's budget. So.
So let's get into this deep dive. I did my best to kind of break it into bite-sized pieces because there's so much happening.
Yeah.
So hopefully this helps guide our conversation.
Sure. Yeah. The good thing is like, even though there's a lot that happened, the way you have it in the outline, the first 5 things are so tightly connected that it's not until I get towards the end of that, before going to the Shadow Broker's ship, that I realized, wait, how long did that take me? How much is here? Because it's threaded really well together, but it is a lot.
So our first stop is Liara's office, because we are going to turn over some information to lead her to the Shadow Broker.
Yeah, I appreciate... from the very start, when you meet Liara in 2, she feels more like a full fleshed out character and a person with growth and who has learned a lot and changed a lot. But in these conversations, when you begin the Shadow Broker stuff, is when you really get a sense of kind of how obsessive she's almost become about the Shadow Broker and everything that's happened so far. Because you only get a hint of it doing the other missions during the game, but during this conversation and finding out about Farron and some of the other stuff, like, you can see she really is deep in this stuff. Like, there is more going on, and you get a lot of backstory in just a few moments.
Yes. We find out from Liara that when we died, the Shadow Broker got his hands on our body. And he was going to sell us to the collector. But Cerberus tapped Liara and Farron to get our body from the Shadow. There is actually a graphic novel about all of this.
Yep, I have it. I can't remember the name of it, though. But I remember it being really great. And, like, when they bring it up in the game, I was like, oh, cool. That's a thing I know. I understood that reference.
Good job, Cam.
Thanks.
Yeah, Mass Effect was always really good about wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here, if you get this to the tie-in, like, that's great. But if not, then it doesn't even register.
Yeah.
Because, like, I didn't even know there was a tie-in. I'm just like, oh, yeah, that was a point of exposition that they just breezed past. So cool.
I can't find the name of that graphic. So we also find out that Farron was double dealing between Cerberus and the Shadow Broker. Was a Shadow Broker operative, was trying to, like, mislead Liara, but then decided to turn on the Shadow Broker and help. And in doing so, he sacrificed his life to save Liara. And she got Shepard's body away from the Shadow Broker and gave it over to Cerberus because they promised that they could bring Shepard.
And I think I recall here, you can actually ask Liara, like, why would you give my body over to Cerberus? And she pretty much said, because I wanted you back. Like, if anyone could bring you back, I was going to take that chance, essentially. Which like shows, whether you're in a relationship or not with her, how much she cares about Shepard, either platonically or otherwise.
Yeah. I didn't attack her that way because I felt that was... Instead, I was just like, oh, thank you. That was really nice of you.
Yeah, I wanted to get to the bottom of it, so I was a little more aggressive.
Oh, by the way, the name of this graphic novel is Mass Effect Redemption.
That's right. Yes.
So after you give her this leak transmission that helps her, like, figure out how to find the Shadow Broker, she decides that she's going to go home and make some plans. And as she gets up, she says, use my terminal. And I happen to, in case there's something there. There's absolutely no information on this thing. Why did you tell me I could?
Yeah, it doesn't do anything. It literally is like it'd be different if like it let you change your loadout or something, which I guess would be useful since you selected specific people for this part of the mission. But like it doesn't even let you do that. So why say we can use the terminal if we can't use it for anything?
I'm sure that if we had decided to do Lair of the Shadow Broker before helping Thane, that would be what the terminal had.
Right, like information on other characters that are relevant or other missions that are relevant, yeah.
So as Liara leaves, she tells you to meet her at her apartment so you can help. And it took me forever to find where to call a cab.
Same. I wandered around. I was like, I thought I remembered, and then I went there, and nope, that's not the place. I was like, what? Where? Yeah.
I went back to the dock because I thought that I would just go and it would say, go to... Nope, I had to go all the way to the other side of Ilium to find the cab stand, listen to that one Asari panic because I gave that Krogan information about how she betrayed him.
Yeah.
I got to listen to her freak out, so that was like, well, maybe you shouldn't steal from people. Finally get on the cab. Cars in Mass Effect, I don't know how I feel about them.
They're weird. Like, I feel like we have flying cars here as a stopgap because everything's so spread out, but like, it's just, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't quite make sense how they work.
I think cabs are automated.
Yes, maybe. I don't remember ever seeing a driver in any of the cabs, but we're not often in them. Oh no, yeah, we have been. I don't know. It appears they're automated, and yet later on we will be discussing taking control of one of those cars. So like, it's unclear.
Yeah, I'll get it. Anyway, we show up to Liara's apartment. I brought Kasumi and Garrus with me.
Who did I bring? I mean, I brought Jack because if you bring your love interest, every mission is a date.
Yes, you're learning.
I am learning. And I believe I brought Grunt because I want to spend time with my lizard son.
Oh, what a beautiful family. With your girlfriend and your son.
Exactly.
Who are both murderous.
Yes. It's a good family unit. We support each other.
This says a lot about you.
Yeah, I know.
At Liara's apartment, we find out that it's actually a crime scene because somebody took a
I feel so bad for Ilium and Omega cops because they're always just trying to do their job. And literally everyone is just like, don't listen to them. Shepard, come on in. And of course Shepard is going to do what they want no matter what, usually. But like, usually Shepard's respectful of the law. But seemingly no one else in any of these cities are.
I think it's adorable how you think there are cops on Omega.
They're sort of cops. They're mercenary, whatever.
No, they're not cops.
That's true.
Not even a little bit.
That's fair.
But yes, you're right. They are so mean to these cops who are literally just trying to do their job.
Yep.
Televasir is like, yeah, that's enough. You can leave now. But we also know why that is now. At the time, it just seemed like she was being dismissive. She was being condescending. She was saying, like, I'm a Spectre. I can do this better than you. Please leave. You're in my way.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, at this point in the game, do we even trust Spectres? Like, that's more of a red flag than anything. It's like Ed Harris playing someone in a movie. It's
true.
Like, gee, I wonder if this guy is actually a bad guy.
We have never met a Spectre. Well, we knew Nihilus, but we didn't know Nihilus well, unfortunately.
No.
But we've never met a Spectre that we could confidently say was a cool person.
Right, exactly. It's like, oh, wait, I wonder if you're going to turn on me at a very inopportune moment.
And like the one person who could have been a cool Spectre was like, I don't want to be a Spectre.
Yeah.
And that was Garrus.
Yeah,
Garrus said, no.
Yeah, Visir I will admit, though, in the early moments with Vizier, my first thought was, oh, right, there's another Spectre. And my immediate thought wasn't, oh, no, she's going to turn on me. Because, as has been through the run of the show, I don't remember everything about these games because I had a longer... Well, because I had a longer than average gap between the second and third game and the recent playthrough, because the third game soured me on a lot so much. It's why I never ended up playing Citadel. And so I think enough time has passed that I just, like, the muscle memory and the retention is gone, which is a bummer. And you can bet your ass once we're through the trilogy for the show, I am going to play it a bunch more. If I could get it on not the PC. Hint, hint. BioWare released it on the Switch. Literally, what are you waiting for? You would print money. I will say this constantly until it happens, BioWare. Re-release it. But anyway, so like in the immediate meeting of Vizier, I was just like, oh, okay. I wonder what's going to happen here. Like, I feel like I can't trust you, but I'm not sure. It turns out I was right, and I think akin to what Rex was saying is pretty much, or what Rex brought up is that, can we really trust any Spectres ever? Ever?
We can't even trust ourselves.
That's true.
Like, show me a good Spectre in the game. I don't think they're actually, like, aside from Shepard, like, every Spectre that they've dropped in turns out to be like, all right, I'm gonna have to kill you. As far as I know.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I really like how they do the, again, with the narrative, like, it's not evil, like, mustache twirling evil for the sake of evil. Like, with I'll get into it once we jump ahead, but, like, there's reasons that make a lot of sense. It's good. I appreciate the gray areas, shall we say.
Yeah. Everything Televisier does is for a conceived good reason. From her perspective, she's doing good.
Right, and it's kind of an ends justify the means thing, where, like, after it comes out, it's like, how much shit has the Shadow Broker given me that's saved countless lives or saved the universe or done this? It's like, so I got to kill you. I'm sorry. and obviously, it doesn't work out well for her, but it makes sense in some ways. Like, you can definitely see, in modern days, like, U.S. CIA operatives doing this shit in the Middle East. Or South America. It's like, for the greater good, I'm sorry. You got.
So we find out from Televisier that Liara got away and she wiped her drive. And Tella wants to find out where she went so she can find out who tried to shoot at her and try to help. Because that's not weird. And in order to do so, we have to do some investigating around Liara's apartment, which definitely doesn't feel invasive or creepy at all.
No. I mean, what's worse with this is I get why they put sections in the game like this. And I do appreciate some of, like, the back and forth banter that we get while exploring the apartment. But, with other games that have done sleuthing better, like, sleuthing is never Mass Effect's strong suit. Dialogue and interactivity is, to a degree. But, like, for example, when we were searching Hawk's Vault, that felt more interactive than searching this apartment did. It just kind of felt a little sterile to me. Once we get to the second half of the search, though, when we find the picture frame, like, it's really cool to see that it's touch sensitive and it changes. Like, that kind of stuff is really neat. But I just felt like the whole apartment search wasn't necessarily necessary from a gameplay perspective. It could have just been a narrative thing where they're both rummaging through the apartment and then they find the thing or something. I don't know.
Yeah, this could have been a cutscene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did find it really weird or endearing, maybe. I don't know. I still have weird feelings about it. That Liara has a piece of my old armor.
Yeah.
Oh. So does that gift that I have on my ship. You two should form a club.
I mean, I understand holding on to something that has value from someone you think you've lost. But it's still, once you're not dead anymore. I'm not dead. I got better. Once you're at that point, it does come across as a little unnerving.
I thought it was cute that she had a picture of the Normandy, which turned out to be the key to finding the information. Also, Televisir said she was certainly into ugly. No,
Yeah,
I was just like, rude.
yeah, like how dare you? Watch
You're
it.
fucking rude.
I mean,
We eventually.
I was just gonna say, I think like what I like about that kind of comment and some of that back and forth is that Televisir is a character that I could see myself kind of palling around with because she's got that kind of sarcastic energy that I tend to lean towards in this game.
Why do you like villains?
I don't like villains. I just like people with attitudes.
You
Yeah,
like bad people.
They're more fun.
Find the backup disc, which leads us to Beria Frontier, which Tela drives us to. As we walk up, there is an explosion that takes out several floors. And we split up. Tela takes from the roof down. We go from the floor.
Which I love. There's always the excuse of like you can only take 3.
Yeah. I still don't love, like, why do we only have 3 people? Dragon Age lets you have, like, 5 people.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely more. It felt more limiting even in the third game, but the second game does try to hide it the best it can. That said, this moment when it happens, like for being where I am in my adult life now, was way more horrifying than I feel like it was any other time I've played it. Like just having lived through the kinds of things I've lived through as a person and seen happen in the U.S. and all over the world, it's like people are on the ground crying and holding themselves and like freaking out, and it's really unnerving, which is the point, right? It's a terrorist attack essentially, but like,
Yeah.
it's definitely more unnerving as an adult in this playthrough than it has been in the past, with a lot of in line with a lot of the other violence we've seen in the game, and it's never painted as like this is okay, but it definitely did affect me in a way that it hadn't in the past.
I feel like one of the reasons why this was so emotional, why it sparked that effect, is because of what we're experiencing right now. We are going through a trauma as a people, as a world, and to see a kind of physical representation happening in front of like our avatar kind of triggers that connection, because like we're experiencing a trauma right now, and that is a trauma as well. So I can understand why that would make anyone feel even more uncomfortable or unnerved. While it is a different trauma we are actively experiencing, it is still very effective.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think, and there's definitely an intention for it to be unnerving. It's just definitely something I'm more aware of now. And I like to point that out whenever we get to it in games, just because, you know, I think there's a desensitivity to some violence in games. And I.
Yeah, so that's funny because I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum where I didn't have any of those. I'm completely desensitized, I guess, which is odd. I didn't even realize it until right now when I'm like, oh, I didn't have any of these thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's just depending on what you've experienced, what you've seen, and also depending on how you play games, all of that can affect that.
Also, I think Matt and I take this active effort to step into a different position while playing this. We are playing with purpose, and I think that makes all the difference. Whereas when you're playing just to like for an escapist reason, you're not thinking about the trauma. You're not thinking about like how it might affect people in the real world.
Sure.
You're just thinking about the narrative, the story that's
Right,
happening in front of you, and how exciting it is.
It's watching a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
As we go in, we don't find any survivors, and that is mainly because mercenaries have been through shooting any possible survivors.
Yep. Of course it's mercenaries.
And
it's always mercenaries.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
I have this moment where I'm hit with a flash bomb. I tell Nasir, Vasir? Or is it Nasir?
It's Vasir.
I think it's, yeah, with a V.
So I'm hit with a flash bomb. I tell Visir, and then she says, "Say hello to the Shadow Brokers mercenaries," or something. Like, she makes it clear that these guys work with the Shadow Broker. And when I heard that, it immediately processed for me that she also worked for the Shadow Broker. And I don't know if it's because I knew that already or it was just really poor delivery and wording. But I was like, did you just admit to me that you work for the Shadow Broker?
Yeah, I didn't get that sense in that moment, so I think it's just awkward wording, but that's very funny and not a thing I actually noticed.
And it was just like, why am I still talking to you? Like, later, Shepard's just, "Hey, Visir, let me tell you some more things." I'm just like, why? You already know that she's evil. But apparently not. Apparently I knew and Shepard did not.
That said, this brings up one of the most annoying things about the combat in this mission. I don't mind the combat in this mission for the most part. It gets hairier once we're on the Shadowbroker ship, but here, like in the Drekon Trade Center, I actually like the combat here. But the fecking flashbangs, they exist in the game and they are used in other missions. But I feel like every enemy in this game is just flashbang happy in this mission because I feel like I'm constantly getting hit with them. And like sometimes your support will yell it out and sometimes they won't and it'll just go off and you won't even have heard it hit the ground and it just drives me crazy.
Yeah. It's distracting, it's disorienting, it's annoying.
Just
and
the
like
point.
The combat for me was fine.
Yeah.
I could have done without being blinded every minute or so.
Yeah, I will say being a Vanguard here, it was fun in this building to kind of charge and then decimate.
Absolutely.
And fun in a way that it's not always in other missions depending on the layout, but here because it was mostly humanoids of the squishy variety, not the tech variety, it was fun to send them flying. And also I think at this point I now had the charge wave, like the thing that like pushes people back as you charge in. And yeah, I found I was able to make more use of it now that we're towards the end game than I could in previous missions. And it's just a blast to charge in and then mow people down.
Yeah, no, I really feel like this whole thing was designed to almost be played as a Vanguard. Like that, also with the upcoming boss fight, like this is a very Vanguard arena, shall we say.
Right.
So as we work our way up, we see a cutscene where Sakai, Liar's contact, is murdered. And as we open the door, Visir is standing there talking about how if she'd just been a moment sooner, she could have saved his life. And that is when Liara emerges from the shadows. Foreshadowing.
Yes, to call her on her bullshit and say that she can't be trusted. And what's really interesting here is Shepard, the character, can go, "I don't understand what's going on." But Shepard, the player, is like, "Oh, I get it. She betrayed us. Got it." It's just very funny, the disconnect there, which I get why. I can understand why people might be eluded by this, but it is pretty obvious at that point, the way it's framed.
Yeah. I jumped on that train.
It's a Scooby-Doo episode at this point where it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I jumped on that train as soon as I possibly could because, duh, of course she's evil.
Like every Spectre, a doy.
Liara's eyes are really intensely blue, and I feel like they weren't in game 1.
Well, her whole design is different here in the shadow. So first of all, the Shadow Broker model is different than the model they use in the standard. When she's in the dress clothes, the business outfit. But yeah, the articulation on her face for sure is definitely not better. I don't want to say better, but there's more attention to detail in the second game. Obviously, they had better graphical capability for the second game, and so she definitely looks more intense and more detailed than she did in the first game or even earlier in the game before the DLC.
I think you misunderstand what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, in Mass Effect 1, I'm pretty sure her eyes were green. And now in this DLC, her eyes are electric blue.
Huh. I don't know that I've noticed that.
Very stark difference.
I I didn't know if they were green in the first one, but yeah, they are like extremely striking here.
It's very distracting for me because I'm like, this is way too blue. It is very unnaturally blue. Is this because she is like biotically charged and she's going to start killing some fools? I don't know.
I hadn't thought of that, but that could be it. Yeah.
Tella then calls Liara a pureblood, which was very rude.
Very rude.
Shepard takes Tella out through a window.
This is my favorite moment because so you tackle her through a window, she uses her biotics to sort of land safely and throw you to the ground, and then runs off and gets in her car and takes off. You give chase and get in the car with Liara and can only at this point, of course, pick one person because you can't fit another person in the car. Like the lengths they go through to make sure that you can't. And so you pick someone. So I assume, MJ, you picked Garrus.
Of course I did.
I picked Jack. And then my favorite thing...
my boyfriend to back me up.
Exactly. But my favorite thing is, as Liara's getting in the car, she's like, after her. Shepard's like, I'm okay, by the way. I'm fine.
Yeah, okay. I want to talk about that for just a second.
Sure.
Because you and Tella go out the window and you hit the ground.
Yeah.
Liara goes out the window as well, but she like lowers herself biotically down and she chases after. She doesn't even like pause to see if you're okay.
Nope. She's so focused.
Well, I mean, there's two things for that. Go on. I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead, please.
So the first thing is, I really love that because from a narrative standpoint, it just shows that Liara is cold, calculating, and not the Liara from the first game, and that she's singularly focused on this. The other thing, as someone who has worked in a bunch of emergency situations, sometimes people don't matter. Like you have the mission and she goes right past you, so that happens, and I actually like. Because I'm sorry, there's one thing I hate in superhero comics and cop movies and things. It's like, no, you don't stop for that person. You go after the objective. Like that, they're either okay or they're not, and you're not going to change anything. So like, that was one time I was like, I actually think I like got joy out of that. Of like, thank God, finally. So
interesting.
It upset me, like. Yes, I agree with you. Go after the objective. Pause for a second, maybe. Just a second, just to like.
I actually thought it was. I was like, this is great. I wish this was in more things. Like, as someone who in my career, like, my day job, shall we say, I've passed people like that. Like. Good on them. Like, we need more of this. Because I'm sorry, there's one thing I hate, and actually coming up at the end of the boss fight, Shepard has a great moment where, it's also, again, it's like, no, there's an objective. You need to get this done. If this doesn't get done, things get much worse for everyone. So I really, really appreciated that. I guess I had the opposite effect of reception.
I guess for me, it shows Liara's obsession and how she has gone from being like a very caring and gentle and sweet person to being the most Slytherin to ever.
Right, and I love that. I went from being I wouldn't say I hated Liara's character because that would in the first one because that would almost assign too much caring to it. I was ambivalent, and I went from that to like. I think I put her in every damn mission in the third game. Like, it was like I was all on board. I was, this was interesting to me. This was character development. This was great. I want to see more.
Yeah, I think I come in somewhere in the middle, but I like that moment only because it like you get the sense of Liara and Shepard's relationship within minutes there because this is right before the car chase and the sarcasm bleeding through Shepard's voice is so good.
Yes.
That it shows, okay, there's a level of comfortability here that they're calling each other on shit. And then the whole car chase happens.
Also, on the opposite end of the car chase, I love how Liara went from like, oh, she's cold, she's calculating, look how she doesn't care, to completely freaking out being the passenger.
Yeah.
Well, because she's not in control and she
Right.
can't stand a situation where she's not in control.
And so, as someone who does a bunch of brave or stupid shit in my life, but only because I can be in control, because I won't go on a roller coaster if you paid me. Like, I can appreciate this. So I just thought this was great. I thought this was great writing all around from her passing to the car chase. I was like, this is great. I'm on board with this. Again, why I signed on to be on this episode.
So speaking of this car chase, we do have this moment where we can say to Liara, I'm fine, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is such a mood.
Yeah.
It's the biggest mood. And now we get to drive a sky car. Oh no!
Oh no. So
I keep crashing.
So surprisingly for me, mouse and keyboard, while it's not optimal for a lot of stuff, for driving the car it wasn't bad. And I actually did it in the first try. But I kept like swerving because I was laughing so hard every time Liara would lose her shit because it was very funny.
Oh, their banter was so good.
Oh,
It's some of my favorite writing in the game. One of my favorite of all the lines is Shepard, I know, a truck, I know. Like,
I know. Yes,
so
I wrote that
good.
one down because it was my favorite.
I think later it was like a truck. It's like, again?
yeah, yeah.
Another one that I like was, what kind of guns does this thing have? It's a taxi. It has a fare meter.
Yeah. Like the sarcasm.
That was really good.
I mean, the only thing that... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just love it. Basically turned into like Lethal Weapon in space, which is amazing. Like, sign me up for that.
Yeah.
Again, this could have been a cutscene.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There was no reason for us to control the car. They could have had the same banter with it being a cutscene. But that said, the glaring meta thing for me here is we have a partner with us. In mine and MJ's case, our actual partner. And they say nothing. And while I could understand Garrus possibly being so frightened he wouldn't say anything, it's really hard to believe because Garrus has a one-liner for everything, and literally Jack doesn't give a shit about anything or what anyone says. So like for them to be quiet in this part is just a little bogus. I get why. It's so you could bring anyone with you. Like this is an isolated thing, and the idea is no matter who you bring, the banter's between the two of them while the other person's just scared shitless in the back seat. But it's just a bummer because I think it would have been really fun, especially for Garrus, who had fought alongside Shepard and Liara in the first game, to have something snarky to say, you know?
Yeah.
Garrus lived through the Mako. He's not afraid of anything.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, I think toe to tip, the banter is great in the car chase. The gameplay, meh. I mean, it's not as bad as the Mako, right? So gold stars all around.
Tella crashes on Azure, which is a very swanky hotel, as I mentioned. And Liara is real fucking bossy. I want to take a moment and be like, hi, you're 12. Shut up.
Yeah, like can you chill? I've done a few of these before. I got you. I got your back.
I have been doing this for a while now, Liara. Please calm down. We get attacked by a bunch of mercenaries. Tella's back up. We have to follow a blood trail to get to her. There's just nothing interesting about this fight on Azure. There was actually a weird interaction between Shepard and Lair.
I don't remember which interaction.
So Shepard asks about the hotel. And Liara explains that it's called Azure, which is a slang term for a part of the Asari body, somewhere in the lower reaches near the bottom. And Shepard says, like, when Shepard says where, Liara says somewhere in the lower reaches near the bottom. And Shepard says, no, where on the Asari body? And Liara's like, yeah. I said what I said.
That. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
And, like, it's supposed to be played as this kind of sexy banter. And I'm like, no, I don't like it.
Yeah, this is just goofy as hell and really weird.
It's real gross. I don't like it.
I will take a
But
moment.
wait. So you don't think that the fight itself was interesting, or because correct me if I'm wrong, but this is really the first time that you fight a Vanguard.
Oh, no. That wasn't what I was
Okay.
referring
Oh,
to.
okay,
I'm sorry.
okay, I
I was
got you.
referring to
The waves
like
and mooks.
top of the hotel
Okay.
being attacked by the mercenaries.
I got
like
you. Got you.
more mercenaries, more flashbangs. I'm not
Gotcha.
interested in talking more about.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's why I was jumping ahead. I'm like, this fight was everything. This
Yeah,
is great.
we're about to get to that.
yeah.
Okay.
Before we go to the fight, though, I do want to talk about another favorite cinematic moment. The way we know that we're following her blood trail is how they show the crash car, they show the blood outside it. Instead of just darting to her, they follow the blood trail with the camera to Vashir, who's holding herself and limping along, and that's just such a cool moment because it's just we haven't really seen a lot of sweeping camera angles like that, and so I love when Mass Effect feels like a movie. And I try and shout out those moments as many times as I can, and that was a really cool moment.
No, definitely a fair point. I feel like even though like you start to see that here, and then really went full on in the third game of just turning it into a movie. And it's like great. This is exactly what I want.
Yep.
Visir grabs a hostage named Mariana, and Visir is a truly terrible person.
Yep.
And she tells Shepard that she'll shoot the hostage if they don't let her get away. And Lair is like truly upset.
Yeah.
And we say, we'll handle it the usual way. So I took the Paragon, because that was all that was available to me.
That's what I took
Which
as well.
meant Lair. Yeah, so Lair throws a table at Visir after I recount how I let humans die and I unleash the Rachni on the universe.
Yeah, I really
Which I love how that's the Paragon.
Yeah. I really love that the Paragon solution is I'm going to brag about all the terrible shit I've done and call you an idiot for thinking one life matters, when of course it's not true. Shepard cares about the one life, but it's so great to watch Shepard kind of just play with it and go, I know what'll get her. Let me brag, because Shepard does brag a lot, and that was great. And also, that's another cinematic moment, like when they make eyes and then the table lifts behind her and hits her. Like, that looked really cool the way that was framed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone know what the renegade option is here?
I think it might be.
I think I thought you shoot the hostage is the renegade one.
I was about to say I don't like just want to go full Keanu in speed, but like I'm like, do you just shoot the
I
hostage?
think you might.
I think
I'm not sure.
I think you might. Loyal listeners who are renegades, please on Discord or in Twitter, let us know. But I think that's the option, because then it leaves her with nothing and she's frustrated. And Shepard has done shit like that before in other renegade choices, so it wouldn't surprise me if that ended up being the choice.
Yeah, no, I do love though the because I appreciate it as someone who played full Paragon all the time, all the way through, except for that one time you hit the guy in the back of the head with a wrench, because you couldn't not. It's like, but yeah, I appreciate that. It's like I unleashed the Rachni on the galaxy. Like fuck you.
Like, what do you think your pissant choice is going to make me do? Yeah.
Right, exactly. It felt good as someone who played full Paragon. Like that felt good.
Once we get Mariana out, then triggers the boss battle with.
I love this fight because it's the first time in the game, really, and we'll get another one towards the end, but it's the first time I really feel like we're having a boss battle. There have been other boss battles against other biotics in the game, but like this is the first time we're fighting someone with a biotic charge. It feels more intense, and there are phases, right? Like you take her down her shield, and then she goes away and sends mooks, and then you take down her barrier, whatever the order is. But like there are waves of enemies, there are phases of the fight. It's really cool to see when Mass Effect does that, and they do more of that in the DLCs and in the DLCs in this game, and then in 3. And this was like the start of that kind of combat in Mass Effect, which honestly it should have always had, but it was still really cool to do.
Yeah, definitely. Like the first time you fight a Vanguard, and as someone who played Vanguard exclusively in 2 and 3, like it was like, all right, this is cool. This is what I've been doing to everyone. God, this sucks.
So, I really wanted to enjoy this, except I got caught in a fountain that I couldn't leave in the middle of the entire battle, like, area. And not just me, Garrus too. Garrus and I were both trapped in this fountain. We could not leave, and we could not take cover. So I just had to run around and hope that I did not die.
Did you end up still winning the fight?
I did, but it took me a really long time, and I was really angry. So I couldn't even, like, take time to fully enjoy the fight.
Yeah.
Because I was just so frustrated the entire time.
I will say on the PC version, which is what I'm playing still, because I'm a glutton for punishment and because I got rid of my Xbox, this DLC specifically crashed my game so many times. Like, I was texting with MJ about it. Like, I was so angry, and I had forgotten about it until you just mentioned this. But just in this part of the mission, up to where we are now, it crashed 3 times. Thankfully, for most of them, I had saved recently enough, and the autosave in the second game is definitely better than the first game. But, like, it's just so aggravating that I had to load up the game again, load up the save, get into the game. It's just... And, like, then there's some game-breaking glitches. Don't let me forget, MJ, when we're on the exterior of the Shadowbroker ship, I have a game-breaking glitch that happened to me. So we'll talk about that.
Okay.
But, like, I get it. I totally understand why you wouldn't enjoy the fight having to deal with that, because there aren't a ton of glitches like that in Mass Effect, but on the PC version and the Xbox version, there are some, more on the PC, but even on the Xbox. And, like, that's just so frustrating from such a quality-made game that's been out for so long. For these kinds of bugs to still be in it is so frustrating.
After I finally finished that fight, I get to have a deathbed conversation with Visir.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was just gonna say she pretty much calls you on your bullshit, which is interesting.
Yep, she gives you shit for working for Cerber, and she gives you that whole, like, I am doing what I have to do to protect people. Like, if a few people have to die for it, so I'm doing the right thing.
Right.
Yeah, no, and that's what I was talking about before. Like they do shades of gray so well, and I really appreciate that, because she's not just evil for the sake of evil.
Yeah,
like you see in other things, and she rightfully calls you on, like, here's all the fucked up shit you did, even if you played Paragon this entire time, and it's like, all right, cool, fair, I like.
Yep.
Liara gets the data pad. Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. Where are you guys?
I was just gonna say, while Visir was not trustworthy from the beginning, for most people who don't have the memory of a goldfish like I do, her character was written really well and acted really well, and I really appreciated her. And, like, this deathbed conversation cements it when she kind of calls you on your shit, and even though you try and defend yourself, at the end of the day, she's not necessarily wrong. She's not necessarily right either, but like Rex said, the gray area is done really well.
Liara gets the data pad from Tella. And then Liara just, like, walks away. She doesn't even react to the fact that Visir has just died.
Yeah.
Which, she doesn't have to have a huge reaction, but, like, some acknowledgement, a little glimmer in the eye, something. Give me anything.
Yeah, it's clear at this point that Liara is focused on one thing, Farron and the Shadowbroker. And while I agree it would be nice to have seen something, I think it's still smart writing to have her like this.
No,
just because...
It makes me concerned about her as a person.
Right,
That's
of course.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm, like, putting myself in my shepherd's position where I'm just like, are you okay? You are not okay.
Yeah. But when we get the data pad and this data, we find out where the Shadowbroker's ship is, and then it's a hard cut to us going.
Well, actually,
Yes.
there is an opportunity for 3 Paragon triggers.
Oh, that's right. Right. You're right. It doesn't just jump cut. You're walking with Liara as she's talking about the ship and like the information she's finding.
So the first Paragon trigger, if you take it, you're supporting her. Like, I'm here with you. I am with you to do this thing.
Yep.
The second one, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say I took the first one as well, and I was agreeing with you.
The second one is calling her out for being cold.
Yeah, I didn't take that one.
The third one is getting her to stop for just 1 second because you're about to jump halfway across the galaxy, so you can stop for 1 second. Which I do. I get her to do that. And then I have the option to, like, talk about our relationship. I'm just like, no thank you. I will pass on that. Even though it does trigger one of my favorite interactions where if you romance her in 1 and you romance someone else in 2, Liara, like, turns on you and makes a reference to them.
Yeah.
And for example, if it's engines aren't the only thing he's calibrating these days, or something to that effect.
Yeah. Yeah, I took the first one, and then, like, I don't know. I ignored the other ones because as my shepherd, I was invested in this mission, kind of like what Rex was talking about a little bit. Like, I saw that there was no stopping her, and while I know the triggers are there on a meta level, my shepherd was just like, well, I guess this is where we're headed. I'm just gonna be here. I said I was here for her, and I'm just going to be here, and let's move forward.
Yeah, I took all 3 because I'm really concerned about my friend.
Which is legit. I get that.
So instead I told her that I'm worried about her, and, you know, she tells me, like, she's really concerned about Farron, which I get. So, like, after I make my feelings clear of, like, I am worried about you and I'm with you and let's go do it, but just know you need therapy. We then jump to the Shadow Broker base.
Yeah. So something I learned. So a lot of the cutscenes in Mass Effect, even the ones that are like rendered cutscenes, like the high res stuff, you can usually skip. Either then it'll just jump to a loading screen that you have to sit through because sometimes they mask the loading screens. You can usually jump conversations. The reason I know that this entrance to the Shadow Broker ship cannot be skipped in any way, shape, or form is because once I got on the Shadow Broker ship, which is one of the coolest ships in all of Mass Effect.
Oh, definitely.
I got a glitch where the first path you're supposed to walk on, where you go along the side of the ship, I went forward just in a straight direction because I didn't realize I had to take the side path, and I walked up onto terrain that you're not supposed to, and then promptly got stuck there. And I tried to get unstuck for a good several minutes, couldn't, and so I prayed rebooting my save because I didn't remember when it saved last. It doesn't really give you an opportunity to save after the battle, so I was hoping it saved, and thankfully it did. It saves right before that cutscene. But then I had to sit through that cutscene, which I now could not skip. For whatever reason, they don't let you skip it. I'm guessing it needs the time to pull everything together, since it's essentially loading an entire... Like, there's no loading times on that ship, so I'm guessing it's rendering everything. But, like, so I had to sit through it again, and then, like, I daintily walked around that first area to make sure I didn't end up wherever the hell I did last time. And that was at the point where I messaged you saying I was going to throw my computer out the window. Like... I was just so annoyed that there's such a blatantly broken glitch in a game that's been around this long at this point that is connected to the internet and has been patched at points. So yeah, that was that.
This ship is real cool.
Yeah, Liara says something along the lines of it's existing between like 2 storms, is it? Or it's existing between 2 fronts, and so there's a constant storm.
The oceans boil during the day and then snap freeze 10 minutes after sun. There is a constant electrical storm in the space where the hot and cold fronts meet, and that's what the ship rides in to hide it from all sensors.
Yep. And it's got moving panels that pull in the electricity to help power the ship, which we see in more detail later. Yeah. But like the sound design, the look, the space, like there's nothing else like it in Mass Effect before and after this. This is a completely unique experience.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. It like almost reminds you of like what you would expect on like the atmosphere of Jude. Like I really don't know like why more sci-fi doesn't delve into stuff like this, because it's great and it's unique in Mass Effect, and it's a great zone, so really works.
I felt that fighting that outside of the ship was really dynamic and interesting, but it did run a little long. I did get bored after a little while.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that what kept me from getting bored with the battles was the lightning rods that you eventually can fire at. For those who may not have played this section, and I know we have a few listeners who just listened to our descriptions, as we discussed, as you move through the ship, you figure out it seems the ship is powered by these coils moving, pulling in the lightning, which I love that when you find that, you're just like, wait, is that how it works? Liar's like, I don't know. I've never been on a Shadow Broker's ship before. It's just so good. Like, almost like, I don't know, Shepard.
The sarcasm is still very much intact here when it comes to like cracking the door. You know, it's like, but you tested it, right? It's like, no. It's like,
tell me you tested it.
It's just,
I love that whole thing.
Yeah, it's good. But later on in the combat, there are lightning rods you can shoot that shoot out lightning to anyone who's near it, including yourself. So if you have some distance and there are a ton of enemies around them, you shoot it and they just get zapped and stay stunned, and some of them instantly die. And it's fun every time. It's never not fun to do that. But beyond that, yeah, I would agree that the waves of enemies gets a little boring. I think that the moment we were just talking about where you're cracking the door is fun, though, because it's the first time you're stationary and you're just pivoting to kill enemies, which is pretty cool.
I really like cracking that safe. As Rex mentioned, tell me you tested it. I also like you had to give them tactical advice.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Liar goes, well, they'd be way more effective if they focused in one area instead of spreading out. And then Shepard goes, don't give them tactical advice, and then they do the thing. It's very good. It's very Lethal Weapon. Rex is right. Like, it's very banter between two heroes. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's a buddy cop movie in space,
yes.
Which is all I want from it.
Can't wait for us to do Blaster, speaking of that. Yes. Anyway. What did I write here? I can't even discern my own handwriting.
Well, I can't help you there. That's why I don't write notes. It's just easier. I don't have to read it.
Okay. I wrote a note saying, I kind of love the image of these dudes rushing to stop the unstoppable force that is Shepard, and I cannot remember the scene that I'm referring to. I think some mercenaries just run at me and I just pop them off real quick and they just die.
Oh, that is another thing I liked about the exterior, is if you have Shockwave and you hit enemies that don't have or you use pull also, and you hit enemies that are almost dead. Yeah, or slam. They just fly off into the darkness of space, and it's amazing. Like, every time I did it, I was just like, bye. Yeah,
that was also my favorite thing. Anytime I use a biotic power on any of them, they would just fly off the ship.
Yeah. We do eventually crack the door open and get to go inside the ship. I will say that the interior of the ship, while still cool, is definitely not as cool as the outside.
Yeah, that's fair.
Inside, we do find Farron hooked up to some kind of chair, and he gets electrocuted regularly, and also whenever it's tampered with.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I laugh here because when you talk to Farron here, you can, Liara encourages you to just go. Like, we can't waste time. He's being tortured. And I wanted to know more, so I kept asking, and I just couldn't help but feel bad, but not bad enough that I wanted more information. I wanted more information from Farron, but I also, didn't want him to die. But it was clear that he won't die because of the torturous, awfully inhumane thing he was in. But part of me was like, but I need to know more.
I have questions. You have answers. I would like to get this over with, and I'd like to be prepared for that. Cool?
Also, technically, you can't die. So, I'm sorry this sucks, but also I need more info.
No one knows who or what the Shadow Broker really is.
Yep.
And when we get in, we don't even know as players what he is because we've never encountered this before. But we do find out that the Shadow Broker is actively working for the Collectors, and he thinks that he's going to get his hands on the Reaper IFF so he can claim the defunct Reaper.
Yeah. I think that are we ready to talk about the final boss battle?
Yes.
Okay. I think that this is one of the best boss battles in gaming. It's definitely one of the coolest moments in all of Mass Effect, and here's why for me. It's a few things. It goes back to the cinematic feeling, right? Like the first of all, the Shadow Broker's voice is awesome. It's really coolly shown. He's sitting in darkness, like a classic kind of like mob movie or mob boss thing were he's like in darkness at a desk.
Yeah.
It is very Godfather.
It is. And then you were going to say something, Rex?
No, you could just see it would be like Michael Clark Duncan, if he was still alive, playing,
totally
massive, deep voice, cloaked in shit.
Yeah. What I love about the Shadow Broker is you don't know how big he is. He looks kind of big, but it's not until you fight him that you see how big he is. But before that, the moment he gives this big speech about how you're just, twirling in the darkness and you don't know anything. And then
May I quote?
Please.
I know your every secret while you fumble in the dark.
It's such a cool line. But then I'm assuming you have Liara's quote as well that she shoots back at him.
I do not.
Okay.
I can probably get it.
What I love about this moment is that the Shadow Broker thinks he knows everything, and then Liara responds, telling us what he is, that he's a Yogg, where he's from, what first contact was like, why he's so angry, just lays out the facts in the way the Shadow Broker thought she could possibly never know.
Just by basically being a nerd.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's funny how she went from again, it's just she's a nerd and she knows everything, but that went from kind of cutesy in the first game of she's a college kid, who is basically this is her hobby and she's on vacation here going on Mars or being an architect or an archaeologist. But here, it's all of a sudden there's just that switch where just from her being a nerd, it's here's the race you are. By the way, you're not spacefaring, so that means that someone brought you as either a curiosity or a pet. Also, the Shadow Broker has existed before you, so that means that you can't be the original. Rattles off this whole thing, and just that's when it pisses him off. And that's when you go into the fight just by her knowing that, and it's really cool to show the whole knowledge is power of just and her character hasn't changed in a lot of ways, but the presentation of her character of someone who's this smart, who's 2 steps ahead, 3 steps ahead, there's something there, and really shows her. It's her branch from the first game to the third game, which is basically, the point of this DLC, right?
Yeah.
And just really, really beautifully done. And then also manages to piss him off and gets him to stand up, and then you're like, oh shit. And there's that great moment.
Yeah.
When you realize you're fighting, a sentient rhinoceros, essentially.
He has a very scary mouth.
Yeah, he does. And like that was the other cinematic moment, right? Like he smashes the table and stands up, and like it's the first time besides when you first wake up Grunt rather. Like besides the first time you wake up Grunt, that you get that kind of forced perspective of how big what you're encountering is. And it's really cool. And then the whole fight after that is one of the best boss battles ever. The way it's designed. He throws the desk, which of course takes out, in our case, our partners who are unconscious for the fight. So it's just you and Liara, which is kind of cool and the same kind of like buddy cop vibe. And I just love this fight to death. And every like phase that goes into a cutscene that fluidly goes out of a cutscene into more of the combat.
I really like having the melee.
Yeah.
Added into it. It just makes it more visceral.
Mm-hmm.
It just because in Mass Effect, it's funny that I don't know why. Maybe it's like the vibration of the controller or the perspective, but like you have guns, you have in some games you have literal nukes. You have all crazy biotic towers and everything, but there's nothing like punching. And like, it's just it's the most Mass Effect thing to have Shepard punch the and that's have that worked into the fight. I thought that was great.
At the end of the fight between Shepard and Liara, you managed to get the Shadow Broker in position so that Liara can shatter a globe full of plasma, I think, and completely disintegrate the Shadow Broker.
Yeah, it's unclear. I do love how visceral every cutscene leading up to this cutscene is. Like, you feel the weight of it, which is, I think, what also makes this a great boss battle. Like, the first time Shepard punches this guy, like, you and Shepard are both like, oh, shit. Like, that didn't do anything, and then, like, get sent away. Like, but then in that final one, like, the watching Liara use her power to pull the ceiling down feels so chunky in the best way. Like, you feel the moment. It's really cool.
As the Shadow Broker dies, we get a sight of Farron. The system shuts down. We kind of go between Farron and Liara, being confronted by all of these voices demanding information from the Shadow Broker. And Farron is 1 second in the chair, next second completely gone, and he's running for the Shadow Broker's, and he hears the Shadow Broker's voice, so he's even more frantic. But as he walks in, it cuts to Liara being the one talking and telling all the operatives, everything is fine, we had a system interruption, I want updates on all of your systems over the next solar. Shadow Broker out.
Yeah, and I love the modulation on the voice that changes, because at first you don't realize, I mean, but the way the game presents it, it's the deep Shadow Broker voice, and then it's a little more Liara each time.
Yeah.
Until eventually you just see that it's like, oh shit, Liara's the Shadow Broker. She just stepped right in. Yeah. And I love that because, our innocent Liara, it's throughout history, there's, great man theory of history where it's like this person came along and did this, and it's like everyone was a kid at some point, and this was Liara growing up and filling those shoes, and it was just it's so wonderfully done.
Yeah,
I just really can't rave about this enough.
It's very satisfying, and then like that scene, and then talking to her, like I assume all of us erred on the side of, are you sure though? Because like, you can take a break. Since at this point it's pretty obvious that Liara is fairly obsessive, but what's really cool is the emotional moment. Like Liara does get to break down at this moment, right? Like you do get to have this moment with her where she is so overcome and overwhelmed that she does cry and she does have a moment, which is like the whole mission has been building up to this, right?
Yeah. She gets really emotional, and then Garrus and Farron both leave awkwardly. And I just wanted to be like fucking cowards. Both.
Yep. Yeah, Jack and Farron do the same in mine. And then I believe you get to hug her and like comfort her.
She kissed me, and I was not okay with.
She did not kiss me.
Well, she kissed me, and I was just like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I think I got a hug later.
No thanks. And then that is all the story. Now there's the fiddly resource bit.
Yeah, so afterwards you get to you technically get to return to the base, but you've never left at this point. You can at this point leave and then come back later to do this, but we all did it at this time. You get to interact with the Shadow Broker base, and the first thing you are greeted by is a drone that thinks you're the Shadow Broker.
I love him.
He's the best. He's just,
I want one.
He's just adorable. Apparently he has some kind of damage, and so no matter who he's in the room with, whoever he is in the room with, he thinks is the Shadow Broker.
Which is also a testament to like the Shadow Broker's arrogance as well, because as Liara mentioned, there are absolutely no like passwords, no safeties, nothing. He never expected anyone to get one up on him and become the new Shadow Broker. So it could also be he never expected anyone to interact with his droid, so the droid thinks everybody is the Shadow Broker.
Which is the funniest thing, though, is he's not the first Shadow Broker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like...
You had to have known that this could happen. He's so arrogant. Some benefits of having Liara as the Shadow Broker is we get some investment opportunities. We can use the Shadow Broker's resources to do some good. You can snoop on your friend.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that. I don't want to snoop on
my
my
friends.
I
did. I'm nosy.
I know you are.
This is how I found out that my boyfriend's mother is dying, and he hasn't told me. Garrus's mother is dying.
I didn't know that. I don't think I ever knew that.
She has a disease that's difficult to cure, and he used all of his earnings from Cerberus to donate to the only medical group that does research to take care of her.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I definitely didn't.
I know a lot of things about our teammates, guys.
Okay.
I know. Wait, I want to tell you all the things that I know.
Okay, tell us all the things that you know.
Miranda tried online dating. It took her 3 tries to find someone that she could just have sex with because that's all that she wanted. Also, I found out that she can't have children, and I feel real bad.
I feel like that came up somewhere else.
Probably comes up in 3.
Okay.
Definitely does not come up in 2.
Okay.
What else? Jacob workout routine.
Of course, Jacob has the most boring thing to find.
Yep. His workout routine. Garrus's playlist for when he's sniping.
Jesus.
The specs of his visor. I'm trying. Oh, Jack submitted poetry. Hang on. Subject 0 poetry submission. I took pictures of all of this stuff and then my phone died, so like joke's on me, I guess.
I guess so.
Okay, here it is. Dear Jacqueline Knott, thank you for your submission to Galactic Poetry Monthly. We regret that we are unable to use your submission at this time. Galactic Poetry Monthly generally focuses on metered verse, and you may wish to check our guidelines before submitting again. Sincerely, Megan McAaron, submission. Text of your submission. My soul burns with the fire of darkness, quenched only in the pain of loneliness. I hold my breath waiting until spots appear black as the past and fill my lungs with lies of hope. I mark my black and jagged to cover the scars that make me a warning. This is not a place of honor. No esteemed dead are buried here.
So goth.
So emo.
I was gonna say that's everyone on Tumblr.
We also find out that Jack was taken from her mother. They lied to her mother and told her that Jack had died. But because they saw a lot of biotic potential in her, they kidnapped her, essentially.
Ugh. Heartbreaking.
It's terrible. Ask me about somebody, and I will pull up their dossier.
The player can go see this for themselves.
I know, but like,
All
I
right.
will give you the interesting fun.
All right, give Grunt.
Like, I knew you were going to ask for Grunt. That's who I just clicked on. Grunt's search history. Search Krogan history. Great. Genophage, spelled Gen of Age, erased. Krogan victories. Okier, erased. Great General. Tuchanka, also misspelled, erased. Tuchanka spelled correct. Or not Rex. Battlemaster Shepard, modified. Commander Shepard, modified. Commander Shepard Norm. Search. Animal fight, modified. Large predators. Search. Tyrannosaurus Rex, erased. Earth Lizard Rex. Search. Dinosaurs. And he just like spirals down this Google hole essentially and downloads videos about dinosaurs.
Amazing.
Also, he gets into Earth literature. He reads The Sun Also Rises, For Whom the Bell Tolls, A Farewell to Arms, which he didn't like. He deleted it. An Old Man and Interesting Things about our...
Fascinating.
Also, Tally installed a vibrator in her cert.
Wow. Good for her.
The Nerve Stim Pro. Also, she downloaded an education vid, ship and mating.
All right.
I'm just saying.
We get it. You've spied on everyone. You know everything about everybody. Shall we move on, please?
I do. I mean, I guess. I ship Liara and Farron real hard.
Yeah, it's clear that there's something there. You can also invest in mineral and mining resources and then get them back. Like you can pay for excavation. It's sort of effective, but not really. You can change your gear. It's considered another normity as far as changing your gear, making upgrades. But yeah, there you can you can ask Liara about Farron, where he is, and if they had a relationship. And she tries to dodge it like a bullet and just says, no, not like that. He's been through too much, which is not a no.
It's not a no.
I ship it.
I'm telling you, I ship it.
Me too.
There's also an area where you can watch surveillance.
Yes.
There's a video of Jacob doing sit-ups, and I wanted to save it for Kasumi.
You're right. Yeah, that was my exact thought too. I didn't care that much, but Kasumi needs
Kasumi
it.
needs this. Some interesting things that we get to see. We see Emily Wong dancing at a club. Where is my girl Emily? Where is this club? I want to go dancing with Emily.
Of course you do.
Udina gets into a fist fight. Bailey gets drunk alone, and now I feel real bad for her.
He's got it rough.
We see Anderson having a private meeting with a Cerberus operative. Keeper 20 walking by a dead Krogan. Did Keeper 20 kill the Krogan? Who knows?
We don't know.
Matriarch Atheda, one of the bartenders on is drinking and looking at a picture of Liara.
Yep.
Let's see. Erdnot. Trask killing a Solarian. Don't care about that. And then there's a video of Jack during her escape, so we can get like a different perspective on how she ripped apart some mechs and stuff on her escape, which was really cool.
It was very cool.
So really interesting, and supposedly there's more whenever you...
Oh, interesting. I don't know that I knew that.
So I'm going to check in and make note if there's any more surveillance videos.
Okay. And then there's only one other thing you can do here after this. You can invite Liar talks about how you have a conversation with Liar, and she talks about how she'd love to come see everyone on the ship and come see the Normandy, and you can invite her in that moment to come to the Normandy.
Yes, and I can also establish with her that I just want to.
Same. And
it's very important to me.
It is, but like I don't know about. So what happens in your cabin with her is kind of irrelevant. It's kind of fluffy unless you're in a relationship with her. But what's really awkward, at least as male Shep, is it feels very romanticized still. Like she's standing there. She's standing there in a beautiful dress, and you're on the bed, and like. I made an effort to make sure I brought up that I want to have a future. I want to build a future for me and Jack, which she appreciates. Mm-hmm. And then you have like this long embrace hug, and it doesn't feel platonic. It feels weird, and I don't like it as someone who pursued zero relationship with her. It just feels awkward.
Yeah, that's totally fair. She shows up in this fancy shiny dress. She has your dog tags for you, which you were certain that you'd never see again. Apparently Admiral Hackett passed them along to her. And what I appreciate is she does take a moment to ask you how you're actually doing, and does what you tell other people. How are you actually doing? I also made sure to be like, I really care about Garrus. He's been through a lot, and I like care about him, and please don't fuck that up for me.
Yeah, I pretty much do the same, except with Jack, of course.
Yeah. But for me, because of like the weird, awkward history that we have, it felt good because it felt like we were, and like it felt like I was putting a firm close on that chapter in our lives and moving on to.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know if it's just because it is a female presenting character and Shep, and a lot of Mass Effect is straight leaning, unfortunately, though there are hints of things outside of that. It was clearly written, I feel like, by the majority of straight men, I'm guessing, though I don't know that for sure. Mm-hmm. So I think that the awkwardness might just become from that, or it might just become I actively didn't want to pursue a relationship with her, so I could be reading into things that maybe aren't really there. And I guess that's to the credit of the writers, right? Is that not being clear shows that there's some ambiguity to relationships, which can happen in real life. I don't know. I'm conflicted on it a little bit.
That's fair. I'm always conflicted on anything to do with Liara.
That's fair. But yeah, that's unless you have anything else to add, either of you, for Lair of the Shadow Broker.
No, that's. I think that's pretty exhausting.
Yeah, I would agree.
Who's ready for some fandom corner?
I am. What'd you bring?
Okay, so I have two. Well, no, I'm just gonna go with this. I am dropping a link into our Discord now.
Okay.
The creator is Stitchy Witch Crafts on Etsy, based in New Jersey. They make custom, well, maybe not custom, but they crocheted dolls and other items. And when you search Mass Effect, they have a pocket tally doll, a pocket Liara doll, and an N7. So the Liara is very cute. It's based off of the Shadow Broker outfit. The Tally is also really cute. Like, they're so small and like a little. She has little eyelashes attached to her button eyes. It's really cute.
It is very cute. I'm suspicious that the only reason you care is because there's a tiny Tally, but
is because what?
There's a tiny Tally.
There is a tiny Tally. Like, if there was a tiny Garrus, I'd be pleased.
That's true.
But alas,
you'll have to stick with Tally instead, or Liara, I guess.
I will probably get a Tally because it's real cute. But she does some other cool artwork and other things. It is my job to bring you the Mass Effect stuff. So
that's fair. It is adorable.
And you can custom order a doll. I could get a custom ordered doll that is specifically Garrus.
You could. That's true. I feel like Fandom Corner has devolved into, what does MJ want to buy?
It has, and that's why Case sent me money that one time, and I used that money to buy some perfume, and I really like it. I bought some other stuff too. I also bought my N7 shirt, which I also really like. So.
Okay. Why don't you tell the listeners what we're doing next, MJ?
You mean they don't just know? I have to tell them things?
You do have to tell them things.
Well, our next episode is going to be the Overlord DLC with historian, juggler, and my roommate and love of my life, John Lestrange.
And my deep crush. But everyone knew that already.
Yep.
I am not ready to play Overlord again. I'm not going to spoil anything, but God, like it comes close to being as good as Shadow Broker in a very different way, and we'll get into that. I am not prepared.
I think I'm probably going to cry.
Oh, I will. I definitely will. I've gotten softer in the years as far as crying at emotional things. So,
you cry?
I know.
Emotional? Soft? What?
Okay. All right. Enough. Moving on. I want to thank Rex for being on the show. Rex, why don't you tell folks where they can find you on the internet and the stuff that you work on?
The easiest way to find me and my company, if you want to follow us, because we do a lot of cool nerdy shit, also sexy, Fire and Fury Burlesque on Instagram. We do a monthly show in bars, if we're allowed to ever have bars again, which who knows at this point at the time. But until then, we're weekly on Fridays on Vimeo On Demand, the best burlesque in New York, in my opinion. I've been doing this for a minute now, which is weird to say, so I feel like I can actually back that up for once. But just thank you for having me, because this is a pleasure, and Mass Effect 2 is top 5 game of all time for me. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us. We adore you.
Yes. You are definitely one of my favorite humans. Not my favorite Krogan, though it's close.
If you like what you heard here, follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can.
We're members of the Certain POV Network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server, where you can chat with us about this show and the other shows on the network.
We do some other stuff. I have an additional couple of podcasts. One is called The Circle of Friendship, which is about the Circle of Magic books by Tamara Pierce. I do that with my good friend Anna Feeney. That's at COFpod on Twitter. And I also do the Rob Thomas No Not That One Robcast, which is at Not That Robcast on Twitter, where we discuss the works of Rob Thomas. No, not that one.
I do a bunch of podcasts on the Certain POV Network. I also Twitch stream at twitch.tv/DJ_Stormageddon. I've been playing a lot of Animal Crossing, which has been food for my soul. Also, the thing I really want to promote is, depending on when this comes out and where we are in the quarantine, which we haven't talked about much here, but I'm working on a project that I'm really proud of called Creative Quarantine, which is a weekday daily streamed interview with Angelique Roche and a rotating cast of guests, talking about creating in the time we're living in now. It's a super important art conversation. I'm the audio producer for this podcast, so I make it into the audio version and put that out on every podcast platform. But if you can tune into the live streams, which are on YouTube, on Angelique's website, or on Twitch, or you can just look up Creative Quarantine on any podcast platform. I really recommend it. It's about having a conversation in a difficult time when we still want to make art with some really great people. So go check that out. You can find the schedule for it at angeliqueroche.com/creative quarantine.
I love Angelique. She's so cool.
She's amazing. She's literally the coolest person I know, and I'm just honored to be a part of that project. Also breaking my own rule of no more new podcasts, but it seemed important for this one.
Thank you to Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble featuring our favorite marshmallow, Kaden Alenko. You can find more of their work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram. We'd also like to thank Case Aiken for developing more amazing shirt designs that you can find through certainpov.com or on Teespring, and David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble. Finally, thank you to Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. I'm MJ.
I'm Matt, aka Stormageddon.
And I'm Rex, and we gotta go.
Close enough.
Close enough.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, aka Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.